I slammed the bank statement onto the kitchen counter, my hands trembling as the numbers stared back like a betrayal carved in ink. "This can't be right," I whispered, my voice cracking under the weight of disbelief. The Boston apartment, a modest rental I shared with my mother, felt suffocating. The hum of the refrigerator a mocking reminder of our dwindling resources. At 18, I had dreamed of MIT, my acceptance letter pinned to the fridge like a beacon of hope. But the college fund, painstakingly built by my late father's overtime shifts and my mother's thrift, was gone. Zero balance. I dialed my brother, Nate, my fingers fumbling, each ring fueling my dread. "Pick up, you coward," I muttered, pacing the linoleum floor. Nate's voice finally crackled through, smooth and unbothered. "Lila, what's the emergency?" "I'm in a meeting." His tech bro confidence, honed at Silicon Valley pitch sessions, grated against my panic. I gripped the phone, my words sharp. "The college fund, Nate. It's empty. Where's the money?" Silence stretched, heavy and damning. Before he sighed, a sound laced with condescension. "I borrowed it, okay? My startup needed a push, and it's a sure thing. You'll get it back with interest." My vision blurred, tears burning as I choked out. "Borrowed? That was my future. You had no right." Nate's tone hardened, dismissive. "Grow up, Lila. Dreams don't pay bills. My company's going big. And you'll thank me later." The call ended, leaving me stunned, the apartment's walls closing in. I sank to the floor, the bank statement crumpling in my fist. My father, a factory foreman with calloused hands and a quiet pride, had died 3 years ago, his heart giving out after a double shift. He'd sat me down at 12, showing me the savings account. His eyes bright. "This is for you, kiddo. College, a real shot." My mother, Ellen, a part-time librarian, had added every spare dollar, skipping vacations to secure my dream. Now, Nate, our golden boy at 25, had gambled it all on his startup, a flashy app promising to revolutionize networking. My chest ached with betrayal, my MIT letter a cruel taunt on the fridge. I stormed to my room, yanking open my laptop to search for Nate's company, Nexus Point. Slick website, glowing press releases, and a photo of Nate grinning at a tech conference, his suit tailored, his charm weaponized. The articles praised his bold vision, but none mentioned the stolen funds fueling it. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my mind racing. I could confront him, demand answers, but Nate's arrogance on the call told me he'd brush me off. I needed proof, a plan, something to claw back what he'd taken. My phone buzzed, a text from Ellen. "Nate says his app's launching soon." So proud. My stomach twisted. My mother didn't know, and telling her would break her heart. The next morning, I skipped my part-time barista shift. My manager's scolding text ignored, and headed to Nate's downtown office. The Nexus Point headquarters, a glass-walled loft in Boston's Seaport District, screamed success. Its open-plan chaos of coders and coffee machines a stark contrast to my crumbling world. I flashed my ID, claiming a family visit, and the receptionist, distracted by a ringing phone, waved me in. Nate's office, a corner suite with a harbor view, was a shrine to his ego, awards, framed articles, and a whiteboard scrawled with buzzwords. He looked up from his laptop, startled, then smirked. "Lila, what's this? A tantrum in person?" My voice trembled but held firm. "You stole my college fund, Nate. $50,000. I want it back now." He leaned back, his chair creaking, his eyes cold. "It's invested, sis. Nexus Point's valuation is climbing. You're not getting a dime until we cash out." I stepped closer, my fist clenched. "That wasn't your money to touch. Dad trusted you to look out for us." Nate's laugh was sharp, cutting. "Dad's gone, and his little savings wouldn't have changed your life. I'm building something real. You're just jealous you're stuck pouring coffee." The words landed like a slap, and my vision blurred, my anger a live wire. I noticed a folder on his desk, labeled Investor Docs, and my pulse quickened. "What's in there?" I asked, my tone deceptively calm. Nate's eyes flicked to the folder, his hand moving to cover it. "Nothing you'd understand. Go home, Lila." But I'd seen enough. Bank statements, wire transfers, my family's money funneled into his dream. I lunged, snatching the folder before he could react, and bolted for the door. Nate shouted, "Stop her!" But the coders, engrossed in their screens, barely glanced up. I sprinted to the elevator, my heart pounding, the folder clutched to my chest. Back at the apartment, I locked my door. my breath ragged, and opened the folder. The documents confirmed my worst fears. Nate had drained the college fund 6 months ago, redirecting it to Nexus Point's seed round. His signature, bold and careless, mocked me on every page. Worse, he'd listed himself as sole owner, cutting me and Ellen out of any profits. My tears fell, staining the papers, but my grief hardened into resolve. Nate thought I was weak, a kid he could steamroll, but he'd underestimated me. I'd find a way to fight, to expose him, to take back what was mine. Ellen knocked, her voice soft. "Lila, you okay?" Nate called, said you were upset. I wiped my eyes, hiding the folder. "I'm fine, Mom. Just tired." I couldn't tell her, not yet. Ellen's pride in Nate was a fragile thread, and shattering it now would only deepen our pain. I waited until my mother left for her library shift, then called my best friend, Mia, a paralegal student with a knack for digging. "I need help," I said, my voice steady. "Nate stole everything, and I'm going to make him pay." Mia's response was instant, fierce. "Send me what you've got. We'll bury him." That night, I sat at my desk. The folder's contents spread before me, Mia's text promising leads on Nate's investors. The MIT letter, still pinned to the fridge, was a reminder of the future Nate had stolen, but also a spark of defiance. I wasn't just fighting for money. I was fighting for my father's trust, my mother's sacrifices, my own dreams. Nate's startup was his castle, but I would find its cracks. I opened my laptop, searching for legal aid clinics, my fingers flying. The drama was just beginning, and I'd write the ending myself. My fingers flew across my laptop keyboard. The screen's glow casting shadows in my cramped Boston bedroom as I dug into Nexus Point's financial trail. Mia's voice crackled through my phone, urgent and sharp. "Lila, you're not gonna believe this. I found a lead on Nate's investors, but one of them's flagged for fraud. We need to meet, now." My pulse surged, my eyes flicking to the stolen folder on my desk. Its contents a map of my brother's betrayal. "Where?" I asked, already grabbing my jacket. Mia's reply was clipped. "The diner on Tremont, 20 minutes. I hung up, my heart a drumbeat of defiance. Nate thought he'd buried my dreams, but I was clawing them back, one secret at a time. The diner was a haze of grease and neon, its late-night crowd a mix of cabbies and college kids. I slid into a booth, my sneakers sticking to the floor, and spotted Mia, her dark curls tucked under a beanie, a stack of printouts in hand. "This is big," Mia said, shoving a page across the table. I scanned it, my breath catching. A regulatory filing linked Nexus Point's lead investor, Victor Lang, to a Ponzi scheme investigation. "Nate's tied to this guy?" I asked, my voice low, my mind racing. Mia nodded, her eyes fierce. "Lang's dirty, and Nate's banking on his cash to scale. If we expose this, Nexus Point crashes." My fingers tightened on the paper, a plan forming. I'd hit Nate where it hurt, his precious company, but I needed more than a single lead. The past week had been a blur of sleepless nights and calculated moves. I had quit my barista job, my manager's threats ignored, to focus on unraveling Nate's empire. I'd pored over the stolen documents, cross-referencing bank transfers with public records, each discovery a knife twist of betrayal. Nate hadn't just taken my college fund. He'd leveraged it to secure a $1 million valuation, his app now a darling of tech blogs. Meanwhile, my MIT dreams withered. My acceptance letter a relic of a stolen future. I'd kept my mother, Ellen, in the dark, dodging her questions about Nate's success. The lie weighed heavy, but I couldn't shatter Ellen's pride. Not until I had proof to bury my brother. My first challenge came at a legal aid clinic, where a harried attorney, Miss Torres, reviewed my case. "You've got evidence," Torres said, flipping through the folder, her glasses slipping down her nose. But Nate's covered his tracks. The account was joint, and he's claiming it was a loan. My stomach dropped, my voice rising. "A loan? He never asked me." Torres sighed, her tone firm. "Without a paper trail proving theft, you're fighting an uphill battle. Find more dirt, something undeniable." I left the clinic, my resolve hardening. Nate's charm had fooled everyone, but I'd strip it away, layer by layer. The drama escalated when Nate struck back. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from my landlord. His voice gruff. "Miss Carter, your rent's overdue. Your brother said you'd cover it, but the check bounced." I froze, my blood boiling. Nate had promised to help with rent while I figured things out. A lie to keep me quiet. I called him, my voice ice. You're dodging rent now? What's next, Nate? His laugh was smug, infuriating. You're making a mess, Lila. Drop this college fund nonsense, or I'll cut you off completely. The threat landed hard, but my anger burned brighter. He was playing dirty, and I'd match him move for move. Mia's lead on Victor Lang opened a new front. I met her at a public library, its quiet stacks a stark contrast to our whispered urgency. Mia had hacked into a forum where Lang's former partners vented about his shady deals, one claiming he'd doctored Nexus Point's financials to lure investors. If we get those records, Mia said, her eyes gleaming. Nate's done. I nodded, my mind racing. I'd need access to Nexus Point's servers, a risky move that could land me in trouble. But the thought of Nate's smug face, his empire built on my sacrifice, drove me forward. I texted a former classmate, Ethan, a coder who'd once interned at a tech firm. I need a favor. I wrote, my fingers trembling. It's big. Ethan met me at a dive bar, his hoodie and glasses a nerdy shield against the world. Hacking Nexus Point, he said, his voice low, his beer untouched. That's insane, Lila. If you're caught, it's jail time. I leaned in, my voice fierce. Nate stole my future, Ethan. I'm not asking you to break in, just point me in the right direction. He hesitated, then sighed. Scribbling a name on a napkin, Rachel, a cybersecurity freelancer who knows things. I pocketed it, my gratitude tinged with fear. I was crossing a line, but Nate had drawn it first. The tension spiked at a family dinner Ellen insisted on, a strained attempt to reconnect. Nate arrived late, his suit pristine. His charm dialed to 11 as he regaled Ellen with tales of Nexus Point's upcoming launch. I sat silent, my fork stabbing my plate, each word a reminder of his theft. Ellen beamed, oblivious, but Nate's eyes flicked to me, a warning glint. After dessert, he cornered me in the hallway, his voice a hiss. You're digging, aren't you? Stop, or I'll make sure Mom knows you're the problem. My heart raced, but I stepped closer, my voice ablade. You're the thief, Nate, and I'm coming for you. His face twitched, a crack in his facade, before he stormed out. My next move was a meeting with Rachel, the freelancer, in a noisy arcade, its flashing lights cloaking our deal. Rachel, all piercings and skepticism, scanned the folder. I can get you server access, she said, her voice flat. But it's 10 grand, and you don't look like you've got it. My throat tightened, my savings barely 1,000. I'll find a way, I said, my voice firm. Rachel smirked, tossing me a USB drive. Start with this. It's a backdoor to Nexus Point's public API. Don't screw it up. I clutched the drive, my mind spinning. I'd need money, fast. And that meant a desperate gamble. I pawned my father's watch, a steel heirloom he'd worn daily, its sale a gut punch of guilt. The cash secured Rachel's help, and by week's end, I had a partial dump of Nexus Point's financials, showing Lang's inflated contributions. The data was a weapon, but incomplete, and time was slipping. Nate's launch was days away. His app poised to make millions. I sat in my room, the USB drive in hand, Mia's texts urging caution. We're close, Mia wrote, but Lang's dangerous. Watch your back. My eyes burned. My father's voice echoing. Fight for what's yours. I'd expose Nate, no matter the cost, and his empire would crumble before mine did. My phone shattered the midnight silence. Its screen flashing with an unknown number as I jolted awake, my heart pounding like a war drum. I fumbled for it, my bedroom a blur of shadows, and answered, my voice thick with sleep. Who is this? A low, gravelly voice replied, chilling me to the bone. Back off Nexus Point, or your family pays. The call cut off, leaving me gasping, the threat a cold blade against my resolve. I clutched the USB drive on my nightstand. Its data on Victor Lang's fraud my only weapon against Nate's empire. The anonymous call was no coincidence. Nate, or his shady investor, knew I was closing in, and they were ready to play dirty. My hand shook as I texted Mia, my fingers frantic. Got a threat. Need to talk. Mia's reply was instant. My place, now. I threw on a hoodie, my sneakers silent on the apartment stairs, and slipped into the Boston night, the city's pulse matching my fear. Mia's studio, a cluttered haven of law books and coffee mugs, was a lifeline. This is bad, Mia said, her eyes scanning the call log I showed her. Lang's got connections, maybe private muscle. We need that server data before they shut us down. I nodded, my jaw tight. The financials Rachel had pulled were damning, but incomplete, missing the smoking gun to tie Nate directly to the theft. I'd have to risk everything to get it. The threat lit a fire under my campaign. I'd spent days dodging Nate's attempts to silence me, his texts alternating between bribes and veiled warnings. Now, with Lang's shadow looming, the stakes were personal. I met Rachel again, this time in a packed subway station, the rumble of trains masking our exchange. Rachel's smirk was gone, her voice tense. Lang's tightening security. I got you a one-shot hack into Nexus Point's private server, but it's now or never. She handed me a new USB, its weight a ticking bomb. Don't get caught, Rachel warned, vanishing into the crowd. My stomach churned, but retreat wasn't an option. Nate had stolen my future, and I'd burn his down before he touched my family. My next move was a desperate bid for allies. I tracked down Sarah, a Nexus Point coder who'd quit after clashing with Nate's ethics. We met at a noisy food truck lot, Sarah's nervous glances betraying her fear. I know about Lang, I said, my voice low, sliding a printout of the fraud lead across the table. Sarah's eyes widened, her fingers trembling. Nate's in deep with him. I saw emails, sketchy transfers, but I was too scared to talk. I leaned in, my voice fierce. Help me, Sarah. We can stop him. Sarah hesitated, then nodded, promising to slip me a keycard for the server room. The alliance was fragile, but it was enough to keep my hope alive. The drama turned vicious when Nate struck at my weakest point. I arrived at my mother's library to find Ellen in tears, clutching a letter from the bank. They're foreclosing on the apartment, Ellen sobbed, her voice breaking. Nate said he'd handle the mortgage, but he lied. My blood ran cold, my brother's betrayal a poison spreading to my mother. I hugged Ellen, my voice steady despite the rage boiling inside. I'll fix this, Mom. I promise. But the foreclosure was a deliberate blow, Nate's way of crushing my fight. I called him, my voice a hiss. You're destroying Mom to save your skin? You're pathetic. Nate's tone was ice, unyielding. Keep pushing, Lila, and it gets worse. The call ended, but my resolve hardened. He'd gone too far, and I'd make him regret it. Sarah's keycard was my ticket into Nexus Point's server room, but the plan was fraught with risk. I met Ethan for a final prep. His basement apartment a maze of monitors and energy drinks. This is suicide, he said, his voice tight, configuring the USB for the hack. If Lang's people catch you, you're done. My eyes burned. My father's memory is steel anchor. I'm not letting Nate win, I said, my voice unwavering. Ethan sighed, handing me the drive. Run the script, grab the data, and get out. 5 minutes, max. I pocketed it, my fear a distant hum beneath my fury. The infiltration was a pulse-pounding gamble. I slipped into Nexus Point's office after hours, the keycard granting access to the humming server room. I plugged in the USB, my breath shallow as the script ran, pulling emails linking Nate to Lang's fraud. But footsteps echoed outside, and my heart stopped. A security guard's flashlight swept the hall, his radio crackling. I yanked the drive, my hands slick with sweat, and ducked behind a server rack, my pulse deafening. The guard passed, oblivious, and I bolted, the data secured but my nerves frayed. I'd gotten what I needed, but the close call was a warning. Lang's reach was tightening, and Nate was watching. Back at me as I reviewed the emails, my eyes widening at the proof. Nate had knowingly funneled my college fund through Lang's accounts, disguising it as startup capital. The betrayal was raw. A wound reopened, but the data was my sword. We've got him, I told Mia, my voice trembling with triumph and fear. Mia's face was grim. Lang won't let this go public without a fight. We need a plan to protect you and Ellen. I nodded, my mind racing. The foreclosure loomed. Nate's launch was tomorrow, and Lang's threat hung like a storm. I'd face them all. My revenge a fire no one could extinguish. I stood before my laptop, my finger hovering over the send key, a decision that would either shatter Nate's empire or bury me in his wrath. The email, addressed to Nexus Point's board and major tech journalists, attached damning evidence. Emails proving Nate's theft of my college fund and Victor Lang's fraudulent investments. My heart thundered. Each beat a countdown to the chaos I'd unleash. Mia's voice broke the silence, urgent from the couch in her Boston studio. Lila, once this goes out, there's no turning back. Lang's dangerous, and Nate's desperate. My eyes burned, my father's memory a steel anchor. They took everything, Mia. It's time they paid. I pressed send, the screen flashing confirmation, and the air shifted, charged with the weight of my vengeance. The fallout was immediate, a storm breaking over Boston's tech scene. Within hours, my inbox flooded with replies, journalists requesting interviews, a board member demanding a meeting, and an anonymous threat promising consequences. I ignored the fear clawing my chest, focusing on the plan's next phase. Sarah, the ex-coder, had slipped me an invite to Nexus Point's launch event, a glitzy gala at a downtown hotel where Nate would unveil his app to investors. I would crash it, confront him publicly, and seal his downfall. I slipped into a borrowed black dress, its sharp lines a contrast to my trembling hands, and headed out, the USB drive tucked in my pocket like a loaded gun. The hotel ballroom was a sea of champagne flutes and tailored suits, its chandeliers casting a glow over Boston's elite. I blended in, my pulse racing as I spotted Nate on stage. His charisma a polished weapon. He pitched Nexus Point as the future of connection, his smile unwavering, oblivious to the bomb I had detonated. I edged closer, my eyes locked on him, until a hand gripped my arm. Victor Lang, his face a mask of menace, leaned in, his voice a growl. "You're the sister, aren't you? Stop this, or your mother's next." I yanked free, my voice low. "Fierce. Touch her, and I'll bury you with him." Lang's eyes narrowed, but I pushed past, my fear fueling my resolve. Nate's speech ended to thunderous applause, and I seized my moment. I strode to the stage, my heels clicking, and grabbed the microphone, the room falling silent. "Nate Carter's a fraud," I declared, my voice clear, cutting. "He stole my college fund to build this company, and his investor, Victor Lang, is a criminal." Gasps rippled through the crowd, cameras flashing as Nate's face drained of color. He lunged for the mic, his voice a snarl. "She's lying. She's jealous, unstable." But I held firm, my eyes blazing. "I have proof, Nate. Emails, transfers, your signature. It's over." I held up the USB, the crowd buzzing, and Sarah, from the wings, nodded, confirming she'd leaked the files to the press. The room erupted, investors shouting, journalists scrambling. Nate's charm cracked, his voice rising. "You're ruining everything, Lila. This was for all of us." I stepped closer, my voice ablade. "You stole my future, betrayed Mom, and sold your soul to Lang. This is for Dad." The mention of our father hit him, his eyes flickering with guilt. But Lang's security surged forward, their hands rough. I dodged, slipping into the crowd as Nate shouted, "Stop her." I reached Mia, waiting by the exit, and we fled, the gala descending into chaos, Nexus Point's launch a public disaster. Outside, my breath hitched. The city's lights a blur through my tears. Mia gripped my shoulder, her voice steady. "You did it. The board's calling an emergency meeting, and Lang's under investigation." But the victory was bittersweet. My phone buzzed with a text from Ellen. "Why didn't you tell me? Nate's on the news." My mother's pain was a fresh wound, and I knew the confrontation had fractured our family further. I replied, my fingers trembling, "I'm sorry, Mom. I'll explain everything." But the foreclosure notice still loomed, and Lang's threat echoed, a reminder that the war wasn't won. Mia and I regrouped at a safe house, a friend's apartment, where Ethan monitored the fallout. "The internet's exploding," he said, his laptop showing headlines. Nexus Point CEO accused of fraud. My public stand had shifted the tide, but Nate's allies were circling, and Lang's influence ran deep. I opened my laptop, finding an email from Ms. Torres, the attorney. "The board wants to settle," it read. "Bring your evidence tomorrow." My heart lifted, but caution tempered my hope. Nate would fight dirty, and Lang's reach was a shadow I couldn't outrun. The climax left me exposed, my courage a beacon, but my safety precarious. I sat on the apartment's couch, the USB drive in hand, its data my leverage. Mia's voice was soft, resolute. "You've got him on the ropes, but we need to protect Ellen." I nodded, my mind racing. The board meeting was my chance to reclaim my future. But Nate's desperation made him dangerous, and Lang's threat was a ticking bomb. I'd faced my brother's betrayal head-on, my father's memory my guide, and I'd fight to the end, no matter the cost. I slid a check across the kitchen table, my mother's trembling hands lifting it as if it were fragile glass, the amount enough to save our Boston apartment from foreclosure. Ellen's eyes brimmed with tears, her voice a whisper. "Lila, how did you do this?" My smile was soft, my heart heavy with the battles fought to reach this moment. "It's ours, Mom." I took back what Nate stole. The check, drawn from Nexus Point's settlement, was more than money. It was a promise kept, a future restored, my father's trust honored. Ellen pulled me into a hug. Our shared grief and triumph, a quiet victory in the morning light, the weight of betrayal finally lifting. The board meeting had been a crucible, forging my resolve into something unbreakable. I'd walked into Nexus Point's headquarters, the glass tower now a symbol of my fight, clutching the USB drive and Ms. Torres's legal brief. The board, rattled by the gala's fallout and Lang's fraud probe, faced a stark choice: settle with me or watch their stock plummet. I stood tall, my voice steady. Nate stole my college fund. $50,000 to build this company. I have proof, and the press has it too. Give me control, or Nexus Point burns. The chairman, a graying tech veteran, studied me, then nodded. We'll vote. Hours later, the verdict came. I was named interim CEO, Nate ousted, his shares transferred to me as restitution. The drama didn't end there. Lang's influence lingered, his legal team filing countersuits to shield his assets. I, with Mia's research and Torres's expertise, struck back, leaking evidence of his fraud to federal regulators. Lang's arrest, broadcast live on news channels, was a public reckoning, his empire crumbling as Nexus Point's investors fled. I watched the coverage from Mia's studio, my chest tight with relief. But my thoughts turned to Nate. He'd vanished after the gala, his social media silent, his charm no match for the truth. I'd won, but the cost was a family fractured. My brother a ghost of the man I'd once admired. My first act as CEO was to rebuild. I rehired Sarah and other coders Nate had fired, their loyalty a foundation for change. The app, stripped of Lang's taint, was rebranded as Connect Sphere, its mission realigned to empower small businesses, a nod to my father's working-class roots. I worked grueling hours. My MIT dreams deferred but not dead, my savings now funding night classes in computer science. The company's stock stabilized, and a tech magazine dubbed me the underdog who toppled a titan. My story trending online. Each headline was a step toward healing, but the personal wounds ran deeper. The final confrontation came unexpectedly. I was sorting my father's old tools. A ritual to ground me, when Nate appeared at the apartment door, his suit rumpled, his eyes hollow. Ellen gasped, but I stood firm, my voice cold. What do you want? Nate's hands shook, his voice raw. I'm sorry, Lila. I thought I was building something for us, but I lost everything. My anger flared, but his brokenness softened my edge. You stole my future, Nate, and hurt Mom. Why should I trust you? He met my gaze, tears falling. You shouldn't. But I'm asking for a chance to make it right. My throat tightened, my father's memory urging forgiveness. But trust was a bridge too far. I stepped closer, my voice steady. I'm giving you one shot, Nate. Work for me, earn your way back, but you'll never lead again. He nodded, his gratitude silent. And Ellen's sob broke the tension. I hugged my mother, Nate standing apart, the family scars visible but healing. I'd reclaimed Nexus Point, not for revenge, but for justice. My leadership a testament to my strength. Nate's return was probationary, his role minor, but it was a start, a fragile thread toward reconciliation. My final act was personal. I enrolled at MIT part-time, my acceptance letter, once a taunt, now a promise fulfilled. At the campus library, I designed a scholarship fund through Connect Sphere, named for my father. To support kids like me, their dreams no longer pawns in others' games. The launch event, held at the refurbished Nexus Point office, drew clients and press, my speech a quiet fire. This is for those who fight, I said, my voice thick, Ellen beaming in the front row. For family, for trust, for second chances. Applause roared, and Mia's proud nod sealed the moment. That night, I sat at my desk, a photo of my father beside me, his smile a guiding light. I wore his watch, reclaimed from the pawn shop, its ticking a rhythm of resilience. The apartment was safe. Ellen's laughter echoing from the kitchen, and Nate's tentative steps toward redemption were underway. I opened my laptop, sketching a new app feature, my mind alive with possibility. I'd faced betrayal, fear, and loss, emerging as a leader, a daughter, a sister redefined. My story, like my company, was mine to shape, a legacy of love and defiance that would endure.